my character Al Simmons, government's most decorated assassin. He's dealing in death for the sake of the country.
The airport kill zone was supposed to be clear of civilians.
You will follow orders and do your job. Got a problem with that, soldier?
Yes, I do, sir. And I want out.
You don't quit us, son.
Jason Wynn, he's the head of the CIA, and he's in league with the devil, man. You know, he's a pretty evil character.
I'll arrange for your transfer right after we run this last operation. North Korean refinery secretly producing biological weapons. It's up to us to take out the plant. Come on, son, this is top priority.
He is being kind of led by a clown who is the devil's man on Earth.
There's one more item on our to-do list. We need you to help me put your all-time favorite killer, Al Simmons.
Why do you want him?
Why? Ask why. When how is so much more fun.
And he's been betrayed by his superiors and is burned to a crisp and sent to hell. And upon going to hell, in his angst, Al Simmons.
You.
Who are you?
What's the matter, Jason? You don't recognize your own handiwork. You left me to die in that biochem plant. Remember?
Simmons!
You sent me to hell, Jason. I'm here to return the favor.
It's time.
Imagine a substance with the power to destroy humanity. Imagine a creature insane enough to use it. Imagine a hero on the verge of creation. From flesh to steel.
You must visualize your objectives.
From blood
Hey, go!
to blade.
Don't get cocky. You have a lot more to learn.
From man to spawn.
Peekaboo. I see you.
We have harvested the ultimate weapon. Makes the Ebola virus look like a skin rash.
Congratulations. I say destroy the cosmos, ask questions later.
Who are you?
This is just what they want. You're playing their game.
Then I'll play dirty.
You've been violated, girly man.
Use your armor!
Now stay sharp. The night is young.
This summer, evil has a new enemy. Justice has a new weapon. And the world has a new hero. The WHO UN Agenda 2130 depopulation plan via 5G 60 gigahertz millimeter waves and toxic coronavirus vaccine injections. Part 1. Airborne contagious viruses do not exist and are not planned or escaped bioweapons from secret government labs. Those countless pandemic outbreak movies and TV programs are not there to get you ready for one. They are to program you to believe in an absurd fiction in order to con you. Germs, bacteria, and virus proteins are created inside your body, by your body, and are not contagious. The only way to get foreign human or animal bacteria and viral tissue inside your body is by injection. You cannot catch or ingest animal virus proteins from eating sick bats or pigs. The stomach and intestinal enzymes turn them into amino acids and ditripeptides. 60 gigahertz millimeter radiation waves from 5G towers create the same bodily distress symptoms as the fake coronavirus. These radiation waves also create the same exact protein nucleic acid response in your body from the resulting tissue damage that the coronavirus tests are purposely looking for. The patented coronavirus vaccine will indeed have toxic foreign human or animal hybrid viral proteins in it, as well as dozens of other dangerous toxins. Problem, reaction, solution. Vaccines, and now microwaves, have often been used by eugenicists, technocrats, and transhumanists to cull populations of undesirables and dissidents. As 5G 60 gigahertz millimeter wave towers get switched on in more and more cities, they need a scapegoat for the mass deaths and respiratory illnesses that will follow. They need you to believe at all costs that it is the coronavirus and not the 5G towers. They care not if you believe you caught it from your bat soup or your neighbor's cough, or if you think it's a secret government bioweapon they purposely released. So long as you're too ignorant to figure out coronavirus doesn't exist at all, except in the lab-created vaccine they will inject you with later. And so you will go willingly into a quarantine camp if you are targeted as a dissident protester or undesirable by those behind Agenda 2130.
Today I want to bring you some insights regarding the cause and the symptoms, okay? Note the word symptoms of CV that you have probably not yet heard. And no, this isn't about some patent or some P4 lab close to the seafood market, but it's about something far more profound. It is concerning the impacts, such as the inability to breathe, such as having a cough with no phlegm. Rather odd for pneumonia, wouldn't you say? And things like suddenly falling over with no other signs of sickness. All of these things can be related to something completely different than a virus. So, let's explore this little reported fact about what has been happening in CH. Did you know that this country went live with fully functional FIVEG? Here you can see the announcement from a Chinese website all the way back from 2018 in April that Wuhan, we all know that city by now, don't we, will be a pilot city. Here it says a large-scale FIVEG network engineering program will be piloted in Wuhan.
It ends by saying by 2020, 5G network will cover every corner of the city and be available at an affordable price. So if I go to the link and copy it, and then if I go to Facebook to share it, you can't share this link. Your post couldn't be shared because this link goes against our community standards. Interesting.
This country went live with, yep, look at your screen, guys. It went live by fall 2019. Furthermore, their hospitals have been supercharged with this most of all, FIVEG or 60 gigahertz frequencies. Yes, here you can see Huawei, CH biggest telecom provider, is attempting to show their philanthropy by donating FIVEG equipment to that. Everybody heard about the hospital that went up in 6 days, right? Did you hear that they donated the equipment to it before they even were functioning? Oh, isn't that nice of them? There were tons of articles all over the internet I was able to find talking about the hospitals being completely set up with this frequency-bearing technology. Now, what does it do? For those of you who don't already know, in 2015, over 200 scientists from 41 different countries already communicated their alarm to the United Nations. to the UN and to the WHO. By 2019, 26,000 scientists had signed the petition calling for a moratorium, an urgent and complete halt to the FIVEG rollout due to its having been proven, quote, harmful for humans and the environment. So, FIVEG, specifically the 60 gigahertz frequency that is being used in CH right now, and by the way, which is slated to be released all across America, has very specific biological impacts that very few people realize. How these impacts from this radiation can perfectly mimic the pandemic that everyone is up in arms about. While you will see truly viral, non-stop news feeds pushing out the fear, the virus coverage. And while it could be true, like I posted in my last video of leaked footage, that CH is underreporting these numbers, what they are not telling you, and they will not tell you, are legitimate reports on the road of exactly what symptoms these people are experiencing, because then you too can start to put it together. But also, you're not going to see any correlation of the timing of this outbreak to the release of the 60 gigahertz frequency. So, we know that 60 gigahertz has been released all across China because, like America, they too have decided to make that specific millimeter wave unlicensed. Why does that matter? Just like the FCC allocated 2.4 gigahertz to be unlicensed, which is why all your Wi-Fi routers, your landline cordless phone, even your baby monitors are running on 2.4 gigahertz microwaves. Because the companies that make products that run on microwaves, they don't want to pay a separate license fee to use it. And so what people don't know is that the FCC didn't just randomly pick 2.4 gigahertz. In fact, it was selected by this entity right here. Look at your screen to see it because I'm not going to say it. Right. These guys were responsible for its selection. Do you know what other products they make? Now, this 2.4 is a frequency known to cause these problems I won't go into now, but my point is, in the same vein, 60 gigahertz is also selected to be the next unlicensed frequency, and so we the people will be bombarded with it. 60 gigahertz has a very distinct impact on none other than oxygen itself. Yes. Here are the articles released by companies who are touting the benefits of 60 gigahertz. They openly admit that 60 gigahertz is absorbable by oxygen. You can see in this graph here its impact on oxygen. All the frequencies before 60 gig are not impacted. Then once it hits that frequency, it spikes and becomes hugely absorbed by oxygen. Now in this article by the companies selling products that are going to run on 60 gig, they say that it's going to help its interference levels. And most of us know from mainstream releases promoting FIVEG that things like water and trees are going to get in the way of this frequency. Knowing that this frequency impacts oxygen, now does it make sense to you how possibly when you mess with the absorption of oxygen in the human body, let me give you one guess which organ is going to suffer first. The way that the 60 gigahertz impacts oxygen is this. Oxygen, the atom, is O. Oxygen, the molecule, is O2. Two atoms together. Now these two atoms creating the oxygen molecule are sharing some electrons. 60 gigahertz causes the electrons surrounding oxygen molecules to spin. Right. Somewhat akin to how high-powered microwaves running on 2.4 are impacting molecules in foods such as water. They're heating in part by impacting those molecules to rotate or oscillate with each wave. The movement energy from the rotation of these super tiny water molecules is actually helping to heat the rest of the food. So in a similar way that 2.4 causes H2O to oscillate, 60 gigahertz, even at lower powers, is causing the electrons on oxygen molecules to spin. And as you might imagine, changes to the spin frequencies on oxygen electrons can have impacts on human biology. When you breathe in, the reason that breathing air into your lungs gets oxygen into your blood, and therefore in important places like your brain, is because the oxygen entering into your lungs gets picked up by a very important iron-containing protein called hemoglobin in your blood. But the unfortunate impact of oxygen molecules spinning the electrons is that it makes the hemoglobin unable to uptake the oxygen and get it to the rest of your body. Now, this info is taken from a textbook called Magnetobiology, Underlying Physical Problems. But even beyond this, isn't the fact that the telecom companies are admitting that 60 gigahertz is absorbable by oxygen just stunning information? Is this all starting to make sense? What they are calling the CV is acute respiratory disease. And while you can't believe 100% anything coming out of China, it seems to me there were enough leaks of people suddenly falling over in the streets that the CH government doesn't want people talking about or sharing, with no other apparent illness. Guys, listen, CV is not new, okay? It's a cold, it's a flu. That's why it says on the side of hand sanitizers like Purell and the side of a can of Lysol that it kills it. It's common enough to be listed on the most common disinfectants. But now, the CH government is admitting that people can have virtually no symptoms and suddenly fall over? No symptoms, but then they can still have it? What is it? Lack of oxygen can do that too, right? I mean, let's use common sense here. What happens to you when you have the flu? Right? You start to feel bad, achy, you call in sick, you don't want to go outside, you go to lay down in bed, mama brings you some chicken noodle soup, right? Or you just bopping around fully clothed, doing normal things, and fall over? If your lungs are not able to put oxygen in your blood, how long would it take you to fall over? Not long. Now, this was an interesting paper released by one specific hospital in WHAN, and this doctor with this YouTube channel, he was going over them in great detail. You know, a lot of people have a lot of attention on this, but unfortunately, they're not looking at it through the eyes of the FIVEG that I'm sharing with you now, and so a lot of things to him don't make sense, but when you look at it knowing this, it all fits together rather perfectly. Of the people admitted and studied in this particular hospital, they got real specific about the symptoms, and so they broke it down from outpatient to those admitted in ICU. And of the people admitted into intensive care, it says this: over 60% of people had acute respiratory distress, respiratory failure. Symptoms included shortness of breath, rapid breathing, and bluish skin tone. Can that happen with lack of oxygen? Yeah. They had arrhythmia. I don't know how much you guys remember, but microwave frequencies can absolutely cause this. He couldn't explain it with his normal background. There was also shock. That is a state of insufficient blood flow to the tissues as a result of problems with the circulatory system. Now, of all the muscles that work really hard, wouldn't you say your heart is one of them? So when you start running, you start breathing hard. Why? Your muscles need more oxygen to continue working, right? Now, if you're not getting that into your muscles because it isn't coming into your hemoglobin, there's no feeding your muscles, including your heart. Thus, right, acute cardiac injury, which is also listed in this. Now, while it's true, pneumonia also causes respiratory distress and an inability to get proper oxygen. That's true. However, don't we all know by now that pneumonia causes your lungs to do one basic thing? Fill with fluid. Fill with phlegm. Yummy. Almost every 101 tutorial on pneumonia says the same thing. The main problems with pneumonia are the lack of oxygen as a result of phlegm. And how you can even tell what phase of pneumonia you're in according to the color of your phlegm. Well, check this out. Now, much of what I'm finding regarding this CV is pointing to people who don't actually have fluid in their lungs at all, but they have dry coughs. Not wet coughs like this, but dry coughs with no phlegm. So in the same report, this doctor found the same thing, dry cough. But also, these social leaks of media, people who are using social media, they're so desperate. They're desperate to get help. Here they're saying the same thing. Look at this. Inability to breathe and dry cough. So please, would one of you virologists care to explain to me why these people have respiratory distress, aka can't breathe, if there's no phlegm causing the problems with oxygen uptake? I mean, besides the 60 gigahertz frequency making hemoglobin unable to properly bind to oxygen. Now, a lot of people had scans. Scans are showing that people have damage to the lungs. But how do we know that this isn't due to other repercussions of millimeter waves on oxygen itself? Also, it's mentioned, acute kidney injury. We know kidneys can be damaged when there's so little oxygen in the blood that the other gases become higher, like carbon dioxide and the other ones. Acidosis of the blood happens. CV seems to cause many problems, okay? They can all be tied to a lack of oxygen and acidosis of the blood. Now, we know that the impacts of magnetic frequencies can have a result of things like seizures, right? How often do people with pneumonia have seizures? But we have seen tons of leaked footage of people with exactly that, seizures. I've also heard fungal infections mentioned in relation to this, and electromagnetic fields can absolutely exacerbate fungus and mold. Now, of course, people talk about fevers in the media, but they also say they can have all these problems without the fever. I mean, how many times have you had flu without the fever? But Dana, what about those quarantined cruise ships? They weren't even in the city of WHAN. These ships that were quarantined just so happened to be from the Diamond Princess line of cruise ships. So, let's check out this PR release from Princess Cruises. Continuing Princess Cruises' comeback new promise, a commitment focused on investing more than $450 million across the global fleet. One of the upgrades that they go into great detail explaining on their website with high-end marketing videos showing exactly how it works is their network connectivity. Here's from their press release. Carnival Corporation and Regal Princess announces they will, quote, establish a new industry apex in connectivity capabilities. It says, using its newly developed connectivity service, MedallionNet, and working with SES networks. More about them in a minute. They talk about attempting to achieve unheard of bandwidth and how MedallionNet is made possible through, quote, an inventive array of an antenna, networks, equipment, and configuration innovations that combine to make the Regal Princess the only vessel on the planet that is currently capable of achieving this speed. Well, according to the SCS website, there are some Navy ships that can do this, powered by our O3B fleet of MEO or medium Earth orbit satellites. Yes, they are admitting to working with SES, and although they're calling it Wi-Fi, that is a misnomer considering that the company seems to be using millimeter waves. Here are a few clips from some of their videos.
Stream movies, shows, and sports, as well as make Wi-Fi phone calls and video conference calls like FaceTime. That's all possible in large part thanks to what lies on board, what flies in the skies above, and the way we fuse all the technology together to ensure your experience is as great as possible. MedallionNet uses mid-Earth orbit satellites, or MEO, that are positioned 8,000 kilometers away. There are 20 MEO satellites surrounding the equator that see our Medallion-class ships, which aligns with destinations like London and Vancouver, and which corresponds to approximately 80% of Earth's surface. GEO satellites actually still reign supreme when enabling connectivity in the polar regions. This is because GEO is not impacted by rain and weather. So onboard Princess Cruises ships that feature MedallionNet, we leverage MEO and GEO satellites to keep you connected to the things you love most, and seamlessly shift to GEO when in the north. Thanks, GEO. In these tougher conditions, we're glad you're there.
So by admitting in their own video that water can interfere with the connectivity is the giveaway that they are using millimeter waves and not just the type of frequencies that Wi-Fi runs on today. Now when you look a little more into this company, SES, that's when you find this crazy information. You can see they're presently teaming up with governments, including the U.S. government, and of course our MILITARY
has a new tool to ease tensions with crowds, but they're not using it just yet. Peter Ducey in advance tries it out for himself.
You can't see it, hear it, or smell it, but it makes unruly mobs do this. The Defense Department's active denial system, a non-lethal weapon that can be used to control crowds, secure perimeters, and keep pirates at bay. It could be a game changer.
This is one of the things that we can shoot first and ask questions later. Normally you can't do that.
The military says the active denial system is not radioactive, it's not a microwave, and it's not a laser beam. It's instead a man-sized beam of millimeter waves that can be fired from up to 1,000 meters away that are designed to get the subject, whoever's standing on this X, really, really hot so that they move. And it's about 50 degrees out here right now, but I just felt like it was about 1,000, and I've never been inside a tub that somebody dropped a hairdryer in, but I would imagine that that's what it feels like.
All done.
After about 1.5 seconds, 1/64th of an inch of my skin was 130 degrees, but as soon as I stepped away, it was over, and the DoD says there aren't any lingering effects.
There's no cancer risk, there's no risk to a fetus or reproductive capability, it's just heat.
But the DoD admits this system does have a drawback.
We are propagating through the air. We are, therefore, relatively line of sight. And so we need to be line of sight with targets.
A prototype costs $10 million, and there are no plans to deploy one anytime soon.
When you look at tabs like this one that starts intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions, one realizes this company's products and services catalog looks like a Homeland Security dream or privacy lover's nightmare, depending on how you want to see it. And here you can also see on the SES website that they are using these satellites to beam none other than what? 5G. So, are these passengers getting sick from a VIRUS? That, by the way, they are admitting that the people on the ship haven't been tested for, or are they getting sick from millimeter wave frequencies being beamed at them even while they sit trapped in quarantine?
Wicked! Too strong. Too strong. Too strong. Wicked! There is no escape from the valley. From the valley of the Jeep. Too strong. There is no escape from too strong. Jeff Boss is my name. Too strong. There is no escape from the valley of the GDPs. Things don't get any hotter. There is no escape from the valley of the GDPs. Things don't get any hotter. There is no escape from the valley of the GDPs. Things don't get any hotter. Think again. Wicked!
Putting a question mark on the situation and thus reducing it to the lowest terms causes us to react like this.
Too strong. Too strong. Too strong. There is no escape from the valley of the Chief. Too strong. There is no escape from too strong. Jeff Ross's money. Too strong. There is no escape from the valley of the GDPs. Things don't get any hotter. There is no escape from the valley of the GDPs. Things don't get any hotter. There is no escape from the valley of the GDPs. Things don't get any hotter. Think again.
Putting a question mark on the situation and thus reducing it to the lowest terms causes us to react like this.
Uncle Sam, the mascot of America. No dogs allowed, curb your commander. The president, the punk, the idiotic. Why pledge allegiance if a nigga ain't patriotic? So you sent me to the D. Marcello. She filed a complaint and wrote up a referral. Cause I didn't put my right hand on my chest and full of victim to the next man's progress. I got mad and kicked the crater in the wall. Broke down shit with a stick like walking tall. Cause the African American got offended. I snuffed the dean and then got suspended by a bitch in a red, white, and blue dress. I went home on a parental request. She suggests I straighten up and try to make the honor roll, or get kicked out of school just like a field goal discharge. Ready for the dumpster, listed as a failure. Another black youngster, hell no. I don't make mistakes. I slide right past those scholastic snakes. It's all about school.
Okay, class, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, who gives a fuck?
The Boston Tea Party,
Wars of Koreans,
Hitler and the Nazis,
Crown Europeans,
the president's peanuts, America's bravery, black man from the jungle then slavery, straight up bullshit. Fuck the homework. Give me a zero for the curse and the smart smoke. You failed me cause you thought I was dumbest. Who found Africa? Fuck Mr. Columbus. Teach me something that a nigga can gain from the blacks were slaves and where they came from. I know now because my grandmother told me if I waited for you, I'd be an old fogey. Fifth period is just a phase. While you talk bullshit, I roam hallways, always. Cause the class ain't necessary. Your culture crooks, your books in the cemetery. The facts I mentioned put me on detention. My conduct's bad cause I don't pay attention. You can't detain me, don't hold your breath. I passed the class at last with an F.
Fuck history, you just getting ignored. Yo, check the attendance, erase the blackboard.
School is boring, made for ignoring. Some tough shit in class I'm ignoring. Grades are complete, so I don't repeat. Lie to deceit, white milk and luncheon. The cafeteria smells expired. The food is inferior to a canine diet. So I skip lunch, at McDonald's I'm money. I resist the ravioli when the shit got punched.